YouTube, there's a trend going around right now that I think a lot of new business owners are falling short to, and a lot of just in general business. This, by the way, is the setup that I constantly work at. So you have seen me before in the study behind us. So you've seen me in the workshop area. I don't think I've actually ever talked to you at my desk before, but this is where I spend countless hours every single day. And in the spirit of creating raw content, like I said, I wanted to do in the Q&A last week, I want to do at least a video every single week, just here talking to you guys, kind of Tai Lopez style. If you've been in the space for a while, you'll see these Tai Lopez raw just videos of him ranting to camera. I think the communicative intelligence or the verbal intelligence that he has is top tier, and I want to work on that skill set. The thing I want to talk about today is this plague of, and I love Luke Alexander, if you ever watch this, love you to death, but the plague of IPOs and IPGAs and EGPs and GCs and all these different growth partner, growth consultant, info product operator. I don't even know what IPGA is, but IPRO is something I've heard. All of these different acronyms that all mean you're an agency that works with info products. And there's three main things that I want to talk on today. Number one is why I don't think any of these models are smart to start with. Number two is why you should not identify as an IPO. And number three, if you're a coach or consultant in the online space, or even if you're just a business owner in general that teaches people how to start in business or how to grow in business, what you can take from all these different models that you can apply to your own offer, and also the caveat that you have to be aware of when it comes to running what's called a unique mechanism like these. So number one, why people should not be IPOs and IPGAs and such. Realistically, these models are tuned toward beginners, meaning if you are either an online sales rep looking at starting a business, or if you are coming from a different model like e-com/dropshipping, starting an agency, pardon me, an IPGA or IPO or GC or whatever be it. Or number three, if you've never done anything in the online space and you're looking to get in the online space to make money, most of these models are attracting people who have never actually ran a business before. And because you've never ran a business before, you're not very mature in business ownership. The problem with that is that most coaches and consultants, most info products, and especially e-com stores that could actually afford to pay you, most of them are mature. And so you're picking a niche, you're selectively picking people that are better than you at the thing that you're trying to help them with. I think it's the hardest way to start. If you go back, number one, let's just talk about what all these models are. They're unique mechanisms that essentially tell you to create an agency, even if you're doing the work, not arbitraging the work, but you're creating an agency that specifically works with info products or e-com businesses. And I'm going to keep e-com out and really focus on info for a second, with a caveat though, that I've said for years, e-com is one of the hardest niches in the agency space to succeed with, but when you succeed with it, you succeed with it. You can do millions of dollars a month in e-com, just like I was going to say for media, but bad marketing with Eddie Malouf. I know a lot of companies, you don't really see companies do $50,000 or $60,000 a month in the e-com space. They're either broke or they're doing a couple $100,000 a month. There's no real middle ground between the two. It's kind of like Dubai. You have poverty and then you have riches. And the reason for it is because you either can't sell to people because people can tell you don't know what you're doing, or you can sell to people because people know you know what you're doing. And so there's no middle ground between the two. E-com is one of those areas where realistically, because it's such a mature niche, because business owners who are running an e-com store, who are already doing $50,000, $100,000, $500,000 a month, because they have to have some kind of awareness on how to sell product, on how to advertise, on how to do email marketing, because they already know most of it, they're only going to work with people that are better at specific things than they are. Versus, like I've always said, if you worked with local business owners who are low maturity when it comes to online marketing, such as HVAC, real estate, dentists, chiropractors, etc. I keep looking down, by the way, at my monitor. There's nothing on my monitor. It's just muscle habit or muscle memory to look down at my monitor when I'm at this work setup. So I've got to get better at that. Going back to info, the craze right now in the online space, it's kind of piggybacked off the Hermosi movement for school, is everyone's talking about how the coaching industry is going to blow up. It's going to become $1 trillion industry. That's what everyone's using, at least to sell their biz ops for coaching. But the coaching industry is growing. But because the coaching industry is blowing up, you're almost seeing all these people try to sell shovels during the gold rush. How do I make money off of this industry starting to boom? How do I make money off Hermosi pushing to school? So you're seeing this bubble, this blow up of being an agency that's not called an agency, helping info product owners, because info is a growing industry. They have a lot of money. The info space is the place to be. It's what everyone is saying. And I don't disagree with that. There's a lot of money to be made in info product. I myself obviously help info products grow. If you want to help getting to $1 million a month with your coaching business, I would love to help you get there. But I have many years of experience. I like to think that I'm more mature than most coaches and consultants that I've met in growing business. And I can help them be more mature so that they can grow their business. And when I say maturity, I don't mean from like a secular sense. I mean from a purely having gone through many tribulations in business and being able to share that wisdom and helping be able to share insights. Most IPOs and IPROs and IGPGAs and whatever 5, 6, 3-letter acronym you want to come up with, most of these guys and gals are new to business. They don't have maturity, and it's kind of the blind leading the blind. But the reason that these are all blowing up is they're what's called unique mechanisms or unique selling propositions, USPs, UMs. I think they're used interchangeably at this point. So I want you guys to recognize, if you're thinking about joining one of these models, or if you're thinking about selling it, we'll get to point number 3 in a second, that better is not better. different is better. So I want you to compare the IPGA model that I think Sander Stage runs versus the agency model that Iman Gadji runs or Tai Lopez has run before him and such. Take agency, take IPGA. Agencies can work with info products. They can also work with local businesses. There's no end to who an agency can service, but an IPGA is designed specifically to work with info. So realistically, there's two ways to sell the IPGA offer. To sell the fact that it's an agency that can make more money because it's niched down to info product. Because you're niched down to info product, you can actually do a little more servicing, and because you can do more servicing, you can charge more. You can run it like that, or you can run this entirely new, different business model that no one's doing in a booming industry, and that's why it's going to succeed. And because it's positioned that way, something different that no one's doing, that's why they sell so well. It's called a unique mechanism, meaning something that is unique compared to everything else in the industry, in the world. And so realistically, your IPGAs and your IPOs and your GCs and your IGPs and your IPROs, they're all the same exact thing. But because they are uniquely positioned in the market compared to everything else, no one's realizing that they're not unique in the market, that they're actually just a dime a dozen. They're all buying into the same agency model that Iman's been selling for years, and before Iman, Tai Lopez was selling for years. There's nothing new about the movement that hasn't been around for 9 years. The only difference is that you're niching down to info products, which if anything, if you're starting, is the stupidest thing you can do because you're niching down to people who are smarter than you. So you're making it harder to grow. But as business owners, this is actually a really cool movement, as annoying as it is, because we can always learn from stuff like this. And I think we can see two sides. Number one is what we should take, and number two is what we shouldn't take. Because I think that on the shouldn't take side first, there's one main thing that I think is very short term with all this, which is that a unique mechanism for the offer itself, meaning being an IPO, an IPGA, etc. I don't think these have very long shelf lives to them. I think eventually what happens is you have to change your mechanism to be something completely different. I think one guy that's being hammered by this is someone named Serge Tatari. I've seen this guy's stuff on YouTube for about 2 years, and he's constantly selling some kind of different infrastructure, build and release, unique mechanism thing. And the problem with that is eventually people catch on. I think anyone who's selling some kind of GC, IPO, IPGA, and by the way, Luke is a good friend of mine, and I think he banged you with the name IPO. I think IPO is awesome. If anything, if you want to correlate yourself with any of these, I would say at least be the IPO. But all the same, nonetheless, I don't think any of these have shelf life. Let's zoom out and look at a normal offer for a normal agency or info. Let's use Cole Gordon as an example. I don't know what Cole's offer is, but can almost guarantee you that his offer is just that he will help your business grow through client acquisition systems. There's nothing unique in its own about that. He is very clear about what he does. It's growing businesses through better client acquisition. I might be misspeaking, and I'm sorry if I am, Cole, but I have a feeling that it's been years since we've worked together. I have a feeling your offer is very simple. It's probably that you help businesses grow through either sales teams or client acquisition, etc. And in that, you probably have 3 or 4 different mechanisms that you use. And I'm guessing 1, 2, maybe 3 of them are unique mechanisms that can change. Because here's the deal. Realistically, let's say your offer, I need you to be smart for a second, guys. Let's say you have an offer that is very simple, like helping agencies with their operations, helping real estate agents close more deals, helping businesses with remote sales teams grow their sales teams, grow their cash collected, blah, blah, blah. Whatever, it's a very simple thing, but you have unique mechanisms inside of that as to how you accomplish it. Meaning, realistically, let's go back. We have pretend we were animating this video. We have 2 comparisons. Number 1 is you have your IPGA, IPO, EGP, GC, IPGO, IP, whatever. And then number 2 is you have a very simple, we help you close more deals. We help you collect more cash a month. We help you grow your client acquisition channel so you can get to 100K a month. Whatever it is, right? You have the very simple thing over here. Then inside of this, you have unique mechanisms. The thing about unique mechanisms are they have shelf lives. Eventually, something catches on or something becomes a trend that other people start to play with, and it is no longer different, or it's no longer better because different is better, or before you know it, that unique mechanism has bad online reviews. Whatever it is, unique mechs have shelf lives. And so the cool thing is, if you have an offer that is very simple and very easily understood that you can message for 10 years, you can change the unique mechanisms inside of that offer, but the offer still stays the same. So you can market around that offer. You can create content around that offer. Eventually, people correlate you with that offer. People think of Dave Ramsey as someone who helps you with personal finance. I guarantee you he has different unique mechanisms that he's gone through over the last couple of decades. People think of Cole Gordon as someone who helps you with sales reps. I guarantee you he has different unique mechs inside of how he does that. If you're correlated as the guy who is an IPGA, an IPO, or whatever guy, and then you're next another guy, and then another guy, I feel like there's no longevity to that, and there's no real brand building, and no one's going to trust you if they followed you for any kind of time because you're constantly switching and switching and switching. And I think that's just, it's such a short-term cash grab, no kind of like long-term wealth building idea. And it drives me insane. But the cool thing that we can take from this is understanding how powerful unique mechanisms are. This stuff works so well that people are messaging me every single day saying, I'm an IPGA, I'm an IPO, I do that. People are so proud to say that they are aligned with one of these titles, that's how powerful these mechanisms are. But I think realistically, as mature business owners, if we could just, for a second, if we just stop thinking 1 month out or 1 week out or a year out and started thinking 2, 5, 10, 20 years down the road with like a long runway, we'd recognize that we probably want to do something very boring, like teaching people how to start agencies, or teaching people how to be online sales reps, or teaching B2B companies how to grow sales teams, or teaching agencies how to have better operations, or consulting coaching companies on how to run better finances and economics. So we can choose all these boring models and then put these fun, unique mechanisms inside. But then we have the power of longevity, because no one's ever going to burn out of needing B2B sales reps. So you have the longevity of pushing something for a long time, branding yourself with something that you can run for many, many years. But then you can have these little fun, unique mechanisms inside of it that do burn out, but you can replace them. And it doesn't matter if you replace the unique mechanisms, because that's not what your brand is. Those unique mechanisms are just part of how you help people accomplish what your brand is, versus these unique mechs. You guys are just going to have to go from one thing to another, to another, to another. And eventually people see that. People catch on, and people start to think like, hey, dude, 2 years ago, this guy was pushing this, and last year he was pushing that. Now he's pushing this. I don't think that any of these are worth buying. I know people struggling to make money now that have a good following because they've pushed so many different unique mechanisms over the last 3 or 4 years that no one trusts them. They've built this audience of people that really don't give a shit about the next thing that they say. Sorry for the language, but that just happens because they're trying to take all these short-term wins. Everyone's pushing this content game right now. Content is a long-term game. The people are taking content, which is a long-term game, and pairing it with a very short-term thought, which is all these different unique mechanisms as the thing that they're doing. And so realistically, what's going to happen 6 months down the road is when your UM burns out and your sales start to slow, you're going to switch to a different one. And then it's going to happen again a year later or 8 months later. If you guys want to be the next Tai Lopez, the next Iman, the next Alex Hormozy, the next Russell Brunson, just recognize that these guys have really preached the same thing for the last 6, 7, 10 years. And of course, there are different mechanisms that they've used inside of what they're trying to get people to do over the last 8 years. But the commonality between all of the big players that everyone's trying to copy is that they all just do the same thing for a long... Alex Hormozy talks about this so often. No one just picks up on it. It's do the same thing for a long, long time. Let it compound, let it accumulate. But when you're doing all this different short-term mechanism stuff as your main brand versus as a part of your offer, then what happens is you don't get that compounding effect. Every time you have to update your offer to make sure you're keeping competitive in the industry, it's like you have to reset your brand because now your UM has to be changed to something else. And it's just so short-sighted. So the third thing to finish this point out is if you do have your own business, if you're a coach, a consultant, an agency, it's okay to be boring on the front end of what you do. And you can still use the power of this unique mechanism stuff in one of your pillars. If you, example given, when I had a real estate marketing agency, we helped clients close 2 more deals per month. And we helped them do it with 3 things: better lead generation, better lead nurturing, better sales. And specifically, our unique mechanism was inside of lead gen and lead nurturing. We used what we called the AILA system, artificial intelligence. I can't remember what it stood for, but it was something that no one else had. And the cool thing is, just imagine when that burned out, because it would have. Eventually, people would have got tired of GHL, which I think people will get tired of regardless in the near future, if they're not already. I hate GHL, random side note. But if people got tired of GHL, or AI being what was setting their appointments, because that's also going to happen. Eventually, no one's going to want to take part. Like, imagine, for example, if your entire brand was around AI, and I have clients that are like this. You guys know who I'm talking about. That love you guys, but I want you to think about this. Imagine if your entire brand was around AI. Everyone thought of you as the guys who worked with AI. And then eventually, like I think will happen, AI is no longer the fad. People recognize the limits and capabilities of AI, but your entire brand's around it. Now you have to repivot your brand, your UMs. Versus in this case, if my clients used AI as a unique mechanism inside of how they taught businesses how to grow or how to have better follow-up in their system and such. My brain is falling apart and my open-ended loops are not closing. I think the main thing I want to let you guys know, the main thing that I want anyone to take from this video is, number one, understand how powerful unique mechanisms are when you're both purchasing something and also when you're designing your offer. You have to have some kind of unique mech in there, USP. But number two is recognize that where you position your USP or unique mechanism is almost how you're positioning the longevity of what you're marketing / selling. If your entire system or model is a unique mech, then it will have a shelf life. If you're doing something boring on the front end, like being the guy who helps B2B sales teams grow or helping grow B2B sales teams or helping optimize operations for agencies, if your front end is boring, you create longevity, then you can have different unique mechs inside of it. Example given, if you're an operations business and you help companies with their operations, your unique mechanism might be that you use some kind of AI/GHL hybrid. But in a couple of months or years, maybe it's that you use some kind of Monday.com/team powered thing. My point is the unique mech could change, but you're still going to be the boring operations agency. And that's cool because in 2 years, you'll have compounded a following of people that want that. And they really don't care how the unique mech is done to get there. They want the better operations. Versus, had you branded yourself as the people who use GHL and AI on the front end, and that's what your thing is, then in 2 years, if that's no longer the fad, and I doubt it will be, then people they're not gonna care about your brand anymore. It doesn't matter what you navigate to. And when you start to switch and switch and switch, people just they're not gonna stick to that. I hope there's something that someone can take from this video. I love you guys much. I gotta go. Until next time, happy hunting.